Greetings! It's Maxo Diddly. Today I'm going to be showing you how you can fade out or fade in all of your particles at the same time. Let's get right into it. So I've got a snowflake particle system here because I was making some snow, and it's using a snowflake sprite, and I have a material with a snowflake, and I have a snow particle which emits snowflakes. Now you're going to need certain material setups for this to work. One way of doing this is your shader needs to be UI, unlit, and then detail. Having a shader on your snow material that's used by your particle system with this setup will mean this tutorial will work. Also, I recommend you start with an alpha of 255 or with an alpha of 0, depends on if you want to start with visible or invisible particles. Let's get into the code we need to do. I've also got a button on my canvas, and this is going to be what we're going to use to trigger the code. So you want to right click in the assets folder, go to create, and then go to C# script. And we're going to call this hide snow particles. And then you want to open up the script once you've made it. Then we're going to do the following. Serialize field material, snowflake material. And this is going to give us a reference to the material that the particle system is using, because when we edit the material, it will update the visual appearance of everything that uses the material. That is how we can edit all particles emitted by a particle system at the same time. And on start, we'll do color equals snowflake material.color, color.a equals 1, and snowflake material.color equals color. So we're going to be setting the color of the snowflake material to have an alpha of 1 in start. If you want it to start off as invisible, you would set the alpha to be 0. You can't directly set the alpha of a color property of a material. What you need to do is make a new color, set the alpha of that new color, and then set the color of the material to the color you created. It's a bit like with transforms. You can't directly set the x, y, or z values. You instead need to make a new vector and then set the transform to equal that vector. Then we're going to get rid of our update function, and we're going to do public void fade snowflake to alpha 0 and float time, and then we do start coroutine fade out and time. So this is going to be our public function to start fading the snowflake out to an alpha of 0. Float time is how long do we want to take going from an alpha of 1 to an alpha of 0. And here we're just going to start the coroutine. And this is the entire coroutine. So firstly, this will be in the description below for you to copy and paste, if you want to, but let's go through it. So private enumerator, fade out, fade duration. This is just us making the enumerator, and we're going to pass in how long we want the snowflake to fade out for. Float start alpha equals snowflake material.color.a, and floats time elapsed equals 0. We're going to store the initial alpha value of the material and initialize the timer variable to track the fade's progress. And then, while time elapsed is less than duration, we're going to have a loop that runs until the elapsed time matches or exceeds the fade duration. So this loop will execute for the amount of time that duration is. Then we do float alpha equals mathf.lerp start alpha 0f time elapsed divided by duration. So in each loop iteration, we're going to increase the elapsed time by the time since the last frame, and calculate a new alpha value by interpolating from the initial alpha to 0 based on the elapsed time. This makes sure the fading of the alpha value of the snowflake is smooth. And then we're going to do color equals snowflake material.color, color.a equals new alpha, and snowflake material.color equals color. We're going to fetch the current material color, set the alpha to the new calculated value, and apply the updated color back to the material. Like we did before, we can't directly set the alpha of a color on the material. We have to make a new color, set the alpha on that new color, and then set the color of the material to this new color. Then we do yield return null, and this will pause until the next frame to allow a smooth fade effect before continuing the loop. And then after that, we'll do color, final color equals snowflake material.color, final color.a equals 0, snowflake material.color equals final color. Here we're just going to set the alpha to be 0 to ensure full transparency just in case the loop puts us at an alpha of, let's say, 2 or 1 instead of 0. It makes sure the particle is fully transparent. And that's all the code we need. So let's go back into Unity, and we're going to go to our button, and we're going to drag and drop our script onto our button. And then we're going to add an on-click event where we're going to call our fade snowflake to alpha 0, and we'll pass in a float value of, let's say, 3. We also need to drag and drop the snowflake material into the script. So we'll drag and drop our snowflake material, make sure this material is used by the particle emitter, and then we press play, and we can see the snowflakes. This is great. Now if I click on the button, you can see they fade away over the course of 3 seconds. So thanks for being a great audience. You can customize this. There's a lot you can do with what I've provided here. You could make a function to set a target alpha to fade to if you want to, which would actually be a really good way to expand upon this code. But hopefully I've provided a really good foundation on how you can fade out all particles at the same time in Unity. And just remember, your material needs to have a specific shader, UI unlit detail. There will be other shaders for materials that this will work with. I just don't have a list of them. If there is a shader that this does work on, let me know in the comments below. But I'm using UI unlit detail. Thanks for being a great audience. I'll see you next time.